I'm about to tell you the story of how one man's simple act of kindness changed the course of another man's life forever, which also changed how generations of Americans viewed the institution of slavery and the subsequent treatment of black Americans in this country. Stay tuned. When I retired from teaching almost 5 years ago, my wife and I decided to move from the Chicago suburbs to central Illinois to be near our kids and our granddaughter. We lived in the suburbs for over 30 years, and it was a tough decision to come here. I missed teaching and I missed my friends, and for a while there, we felt like we were out on an island. And then I met Bob. I call Bob the mayor of our cul-de-sac. He knows everyone on our street, is friends with everyone, and is the kind of guy who never met a stranger. He's truly one of the nicest, most gregarious people I've ever met, and he is kind to a fault. Last night it snowed here an inch or two, and I went out to shovel the drive this morning. As the garage door went up, there's Bob standing in my driveway whistling away as he's shoveling off the drive. I looked at him and said, "What do you think you're doing, young man?" Bob's got 12 or 13 years on me, but you'd never know it since he's always on the move. Well, my neighbor shoveled off my drive this morning, and I didn't get dressed up for nothing, so here I am. We both laughed, finished off my drive together, and then walked over to do the last snow-covered drive in the cul-de-sac. Bob's a wealth of information every time we speak, and today is no exception. As we're shoveling off the drive, Bob tells me a story about the great Alex Haley, the author of Roots, and it's a doozy. Alex Haley's father was a man named Simon Haley, who was the 8th child of a former slave and sharecropper named Alec Haley. Back then, a boy was considered wasted if he was still in school after he was old enough to work on the farm. But Simon's mother, Queen, had a dream that her youngest boy would be educated, and she did everything she could to convince her husband that they needed to make that happen. When Simon graduated 8th grade, his father gave him 5 $10 bills for his education and told him that was all he would ever get. So Simon set off for Lane College, which offered courses up through junior college. His money didn't last long after he paid for classes, so he had to work 3 jobs to continue to go to school. He worked as a handyman, a waiter, and a helper at a home for wayward boys. In the winter, he would also get up early and go to the homes of well-off white families and make fires so they could wake into a warm, cozy home. He soon became a joke at the school because he only had 1 pair of pants and shoes, and his constant struggle for money started to affect his grades. But he was finally able to complete high school, so he enrolled at A&T College in North Carolina, where he continued to struggle with money and grades. One day, he was called in by a professor who told him he had failed a class for which he couldn't afford to buy the textbook. This was the straw that nearly broke the camel's back. He'd tried everything, and he saw this as a sign that he should return to sharecropping, which is probably his fate all along. But just a few days later, he was told that he had been chosen to be one of 24 black college men among hundreds of applicants to be a sleeping porter for the Pullman Railcar Company over the summers. He finally felt like he had a fighting chance. He eagerly reported for duty and was assigned to the Buffalo to Pittsburgh train. Late one night, one of the passengers rang the porter's bell, and Simon hurried to see if he could help. A man and his wife were having trouble sleeping and asked for some warm milk. Simon hurried back with 2 large glasses of warm milk on a silver tray of napkins. The distinguished-looking gentleman handed 1 glass to his wife up in her sleeping berth and began sipping the other one as he engaged Simon in conversation. The man asked Simon where he was from, and Simon told him Savannah, Tennessee. He told Simon that he spoke well and asked him what work he did before working on the train. Simon was too embarrassed to tell him sharecropping, so he just told him he was a college student at A&T College in Greensboro. The man looked him over, thanked him again, wished him well, and went to bed. When the train finally arrived, the man found Simon and gave him a $5 tip at a time when 50 cents was considered a huge tip. Simon was profoundly grateful. He had been saving his tips all summer, and now he had enough to buy either a plow and a mule or to pay for 1 semester at A&T College without having to work. He decided he'd give it 1 more semester to see what kind of grades he could get if he focused 100% of his energies on schoolwork. Not long after he returned to campus, he was called in to see the president of the college. This couldn't be good. He was asked if he had brought a man and his wife some warm milk late one night while they worked as a porter. "Yes, sir," he said. "Do you know who that man was?" "No, sir," Simon said. "His name was Mr. R.S.M. Boyce, and he's a retired executive from Curtis Publishing, which publishes the Saturday Evening Post," the president said. "He's donated $500 to pay for your tuition, board, and books for the entire school year." Simon was dumbfounded, but he also was determined not to waste Mr. Boyce's generous gift. He went on to graduate from A&T College first in his class, which earned him a scholarship to Cornell University, where he pursued his master's degree, and his wife Bertha, Alex Haley's mother, entered the Ithaca Music Conservatory to study piano. Decades later, Alex Haley was invited to the offices of the Saturday Evening Post to discuss the condensation of his first book, Malcolm X. And as he sat there, he remembered the generous gift by Mr. Boyce that changed his father's life. And he said he couldn't help himself, but he just sat there and cried. It meant that instead of living in the shack of a sharecropper, he and his siblings would grow up among shelves of books, believing they could be anything they wanted to be. Haley's brother went on to be the head of the U.S. Postal Rate Commission. His other brother became an architect, his sister became a music teacher, and he, of course, became one of the most famous writers in American history, and would change the world with his book Roots and the subsequent miniseries that aired in 1977. I was 12 years old in 1977, and I remember how all my friends and I were absolutely glued to the TV set every night when it came on. Those 8 episodes guaranteed that no one would look at Black history in our country the same ever again. None of that would have been possible without the kindness of that man so long ago. Alex Haley said he believed that Mr. Boyce came into his father's life as part of a mysterious power working for good. He also said that each person blessed with success has an obligation to return part of that blessing. We must all live and act like the man on the train, because no human act of kindness is ever really wasted. I truly believe this, but I also believe that a simple act of kindness can have profound effects on the world. If you never know where a far-reaching gift or a helping hand might lead, or what it might mean to a future generation. Abraham Lincoln once said, "No man stands as tall as when he stoops to help a child." Who knows? With one simple act of generosity, you might help create the next Alex Haley. As always, thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Love you guys.